You're not supposed to attract anything. You have to remember something that's already yours. Here's the glitch in the mainstream manifestation matrix. The entire framework assumes separation. It suggests that what you desire is out there, and you, from your current place of lack or longing, must somehow magnetize it to you. But in the quantum universe, there is no out there. There is only here, vibrating in infinite configurations. So what if the future you crave isn't waiting to be attracted, but to be remembered? Let's begin with a story. When Maya was 7 years old, she would close her eyes and see herself speaking on a stage. She didn't know what it meant. She felt the lights, the heartbeat of the crowd, the feeling of utter purpose. But no one ever told her it was real. So she grew up. She studied what she was told to study. She worked. She survived. And every time she passed a theater, something ached. 15 years later, after a failed relationship, a burnout, and a panic attack in a parking lot, she heard her own voice whisper from within, "It's time to remember who you are." That night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror and cried, not from sadness, but from recognition. A week later, a friend invited her to an open mic. 2 months after that, she was speaking on a local stage. The same lights, the same heartbeat, the same scene she had seen as a child. She didn't attract that moment. She remembered it, and the field responded to her recognition. Because this is how it works. In the quantum model of reality, everything already exists. Every version of you, every possible outcome, every fulfilled desire. Time is not a line, it's a field, a matrix, a vibrational archive of all that ever was and ever could be. And that means you're not calling anything to you. You're collapsing the version of reality that matches what you've already encoded in your soul. This is the lie of attraction, that you are separate from the thing you want. But you were never separate. You were only asleep. And the moment you start remembering, truly, cellularly remembering, the feeling of already being, already having, already becoming, the field doesn't wait. It reflects instantly. Let's bring in the science. According to the principles of quantum superposition, every particle exists in a state of probability, a waveform, until it is observed. In that moment, the wave collapses into a specific outcome. But what determines which outcome collapses? Not the strength of the desire, but the clarity of the observer. And this is the key most manifestation teachings ignore. Your inner identity, your sense of self, is the true observer. And that identity holds memories, some from the past, but others from the future. This isn't fantasy, this is structure. In neuroscience, we know the brain does not distinguish between a memory and a vivid imagination. To the nervous system, if you feel it deeply, it's real. And in the field, if your vibration aligns with a timeline, it activates. The two systems mirror each other. Your biology and the field are in constant quantum dialogue. So when you remember a future version of yourself with enough emotional charge and coherence, you're not imagining, you're aligning. You're not drawing it to you. You're phasing into it. But here's the paradox that keeps people stuck. They try to visualize their desires from the frequency of not having them. They're still trying to convince themselves, still operating from the wound, from the lack. And the field, being utterly honest, reflects that. So the more they try to attract, the more they reinforce that they don't already have. That's why the ones who surrender, who let go of the chase and drop into remembrance, manifest faster. They're not wishing, they're not begging, they're not chasing. They're simply tuning their instrument to a song they already know and letting the music carry them. Neville Goddard called this living from the end. But even that misses something deeper. Because when you live from the end, you're not just pretending it happened. You're allowing the version of you who already knows to rise within your system and take the lead. You're becoming memory in motion. Let's break it down with a simple metaphor. Imagine your future self as a lighthouse, constantly transmitting a signal across time. That signal is made of frequency, emotion, and identity. Most of the time, your present moment self is too clouded with fear, doubt, overthinking, identity loops to receive it. But the moment you drop into presence, into breath, into full-body knowing, the static clears. You tune in. The memory floods in like déjà vu. And suddenly, you're not reaching for your future. You're walking inside it. This is why some people manifest miracles with ease. They don't force alignment. They allow memory. They let the memory of wholeness speak louder than the story of separation. And that remembering becomes a vibrational signature that the field cannot ignore. So now, ask yourself this. What if what you're trying to create is actually something your soul already experienced? What if the images in your dreams, the flashes in your meditations, the chills in your body when you imagine that future, aren't just fantasy, but echoes from another version of you calling you home? And what if the only thing missing is your willingness to remember without needing permission? In the next chapter, we'll dive deep into the quantum field and explore how your future is not a distant possibility, but a stored memory, encoded and accessible, not through effort, but through frequency. You don't need to attract what's already yours. You just need to remember who you were before you forgot. You've been taught that memory is something that lives behind you, a relic of the past stored in the mind, activated by triggers, and replayed in moments of nostalgia or regret. But what if memory isn't linear? What if memory doesn't care about time? What if your future is not a fantasy to be created, but a memory waiting to be accessed? This is not poetry, it's physics. In the quantum model of reality, time is not a straight line, it's a field. Every moment, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously in a state of potential, and the you that lives inside each of those moments is already encoded in the structure of the field. You are not waiting for a future to arrive. You are tuning into the memory of a version of you who already exists, in full coherence, beyond the illusion of time. Let's explore how this works. The work of Dr. Amit Goswami, among others, points to a deeper truth about consciousness and the collapse of reality, that the observer does not just witness experience. The observer chooses from the field of potential and brings one version into form. But what if the observer isn't just you in the now? What if the observer is also your future self, collapsing memories backward into your awareness so that your next timeline becomes inevitable? We think of remembering as a passive act, but in the field, remembering is creation. When you remember who you truly are, when you remember the state of being that aligns with your most expanded self, you pull that version of reality into the present with vibrational authority. And here's the part that rewires everything. Your future doesn't come from planning. It comes from recognition. Let me explain with a metaphor. Imagine the quantum field as a massive library, an infinite archive of all possible versions of you. Each version is a different book, a different frequency, a different emotional tone. Most people are wandering through this library blind, picking up random stories, repeating the ones they know, or defaulting to inherited scripts. But then something shifts. You pause. You feel something. A sense of déjà vu. A dream you can't forget. An image that haunts you. That's not imagination. That's a memory file opening. And the moment you emotionally engage with it, the moment your nervous system believes it's real, that book, that timeline, that version of you begins to write itself into your now. This is where science meets mysticism. Studies in quantum cognition suggest that memory may not be stored in the brain at all, but accessed through the field via resonance. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic fields proposes that once a pattern is established, it can be remembered by other systems through non-local resonance. In other words, the memory of your future may not be in your mind, but in the energetic field surrounding you, waiting to be triggered by coherence. And how do you access it? Not through force, not through wishing, but through matching frequency. Emotion is the access point. That's why the memories that stick with you, whether past or future, are always emotionally charged. That's why, when you get a flash of your future self, it's not just visual, it's somatic. Your body responds before your mind can explain it. You get goosebumps. Your breath catches. Your heart expands or contracts. These are not signs of imagination. These are physiological responses to remembering something the field already knows. But this raises a deeper question. If the future already exists, then why don't we all remember it? Because the field doesn't just respond to desire. It responds to clarity, and most people are walking through life in an energetic fog, recycled emotions, unprocessed trauma, mental loops, identity masks. They can't access future memories because their system is too entangled with the past. In order to remember the future, you must create space inside your being. Space for a new signal to land. Space for the unknown to feel safe. Space for identity to loosen just enough so a new version of you can emerge. This is why so many breakthroughs happen in stillness, in meditation, in moments of surrender. Not because you're doing something mystical, but because you're creating coherence. And coherence is the universal password to access memory across time. Think of your field like a radio. Every version of you, every timeline, every outcome is a different frequency. If you're tuned into chaos, you won't hear the channel of abundance. If you're dialed into fear, the signal of your highest self won't come through clearly. But the moment you change your state, emotionally, mentally, vibrationally, you change what you're able to remember. You don't have to invent the vision, you just have to stop blocking it. The Buddhists called this suchness, the state of perceiving what is, without distortion. In neuroscience, we call it neuroception, the body's ability to detect safety and predict outcomes without conscious thought. In manifestation, we call it alignment. But all of it points to the same principle. The moment your system stops fighting the present, the future reveals itself. So here's the radical shift. Stop trying to create a future. Start remembering the one that's already been encoded into your soul. And the more you remember, the more magnetic you become, not because you're forcing outcomes, but because you're living in harmony with a timeline that already exists. This is the difference between force and flow, between effort and access, between wishing and witnessing, because the future isn't waiting for you to catch up. It's waiting for you to remember it into existence. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the brain rewires itself to receive these memories, and why neuroplasticity is the scientific bridge between identity and destiny. You'll learn why accessing the future is less about vision boards and more about changing the vessel through which the memory arrives. Because if your future is a memory, then your body is the receiver, and your belief is the switch. There's a silent revolution happening inside you. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't ask for attention. It unfolds in the shadows, between synapses, inside the electrical storms of your brain. And yet, it holds the key to collapsing timelines, accessing future memories, and embodying the version of you who already knows. This revolution is called neuroplasticity, and it may be the most overlooked tool in quantum manifestation. Let's begin here. Your brain is not a storage unit. It's not a static archive of facts, traumas, and memories. It's a living, breathing interface, a dynamic system that is constantly rewiring itself in response to your focus, your emotional state, your environment, and your intentions. Every thought you think, every feeling you feel, every belief you entertain, lays down or reinforces a neural pathway. Over time, those pathways become default settings, and those defaults determine what you can perceive, more importantly, what you can remember. The mistake most people make is believing that remembering is passive, that it's something that just happens to them. But in truth, memory is permissioned access. You gain access to certain memories, from past or future, based on who you are being right now. Let's pause there. Your identity determines your access, and identity is not fixed. It's programmable. When you change your identity, not in theory but in embodied practice, you unlock new levels of memory, intuition, and possibility. Your brain stops looking for evidence to support who you've been and starts searching for data that matches who you're becoming. And that's when something strange happens. You begin to remember futures you never logically learned, but always deeply knew. Now let's talk biology. Your brain contains over 100 billion neurons, each capable of forming thousands of connections. When you engage in new patterns of thought, emotion, and imagination, you activate different neural networks. And when those networks fire together repeatedly, they wire together, forming new maps of reality inside your nervous system. This is how the brain learns, but it's also how the brain remembers, literally puts back together fragments of identity that were previously scattered, suppressed, or untuned. This is why imagining a new future can feel so overwhelming at first, because your brain doesn't yet have the circuitry to hold that vision as real. You're asking it to run software it hasn't downloaded yet. But the moment you engage in repetition, visualizing, feeling, speaking, and emotionally anchoring that future, your neural hardware begins to shift. You're not just getting ready for a new reality, you're installing the memory of it. This is where it gets powerful. Every time you imagine your future self with enough clarity, your brain believes it's a real memory. In studies of Olympic athletes, researchers found that mental rehearsal activated the same regions of the brain as physical movement. The brain didn't know the difference between imagination and experience. It responded to both with equal validity. So when you rehearse a future vividly and consistently, you're not faking. You're remembering forward. You're laying down new tracks of identity, and the field is listening. But this is where most people stop. They visualize for 5 minutes, feel good for a moment, and then spend the rest of the day reacting from old patterns. That's like downloading a new app and then throwing your phone in water. Neuroplasticity requires consistency. The field requires coherence, and your future self requires stability. So how do you build the neural architecture to hold a future memory? By embodying the state before the outcome. Not pretending, not faking it, but actually training your body to feel and in real time the emotions of the future already lived. Gratitude, certainty, peace, expansion. These are not rewards. They are requirements. They are the tuning forks that tell the brain, this is safe, this is familiar, this is real. And when something feels real enough, long enough, your brain installs it as memory. This is why manifestation isn't about repetition. It's about recognition. The moment the system recognizes a new future as more familiar than the old past, the shift becomes irreversible. Let's bring in Dr. Joe Dispenza's concept of firing and wiring. Every time you think and feel differently, even slightly, you create a new neurological map. But here's what's often overlooked. The emotional signal determines the strength of the wiring. If you imagine a future but feel doubt, the signal is weak. If you imagine it while feeling deep gratitude and joy, the signal is strong. The stronger the signal, the more stable the memory. So yes, you can rewire yourself into a new reality, but you must feel your way into it, not just think about it. That's how the brain learns to expect magic. That's how the body starts to crave alignment. That's how the field starts to mirror back the signal of your becoming. Because when your inner environment changes, your perception of time changes. And when your perception of time changes, you begin to experience non-linear memory. You wake up knowing something that hasn't happened yet. You feel emotions that don't match your current life, but match your next one. You get flashes of a self you haven't become, but already recognize. And this is where the game changes. Because at that point, manifestation isn't about strategy. It's about familiarity. You're no longer trying to create something new. You're stabilizing something ancient, something already written, something your soul has already lived 1,000 times in other dimensions, and is now offering back to you as remembrance. The only thing that ever blocks it is identity. If you keep showing up as the version of you that doesn't believe it's possible, that can't imagine things changing, that's addicted to the old story, your brain will keep playing that loop. But the moment you act from the knowing that it's already done, your system catches up, and the field follows suit. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how the energy of remembering creates magnetic fields around you. Fields that not only anchor timelines, but attract confirmation through real-world synchronicities. You'll understand how anchoring emotions before outcomes is the key to becoming the version of you who no longer asks if it's working. Because they already know. You're not just rewiring your brain, you're reactivating your access, and the memory of your future is waking up. There's a moment when it stops being theory, when remembering your future shifts from an idea into a felt reality. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes as stillness, as a deep inner click, like something ancient just fell back into place. And in that moment, your entire field changes. This is the energy of remembering. Not remembering the past, but remembering the you who has already lived the life you're just now stepping into. The one who already healed, already loved, already walked through the fear. The version of you who isn't striving to become, but is finally safe enough to be. But here's what most people don't realize. Remembering isn't passive. It's a frequency, a transmission, a vibrational tone so specific that it reconfigures your field in real time and begins to anchor a new timeline into your present reality. Let's break this down. When you remember a future self, what you're really doing is activating the emotional signature of that timeline. Emotion is the carrier wave. It's the glue that binds intention to reality. And just like each radio station broadcasts on a specific frequency, each version of your future has a unique emotional pattern, a combination of thoughts, feelings, and body states that resonate in harmony. If you can feel it deeply, consistently, without needing proof, you are already broadcasting that frequency into the quantum field. And the field, which is governed by resonance, cannot help but mirror it back. This is not metaphysics. This is energetic mechanics. Here's the part most manifestation teachings oversimplify. It's not about feeling good all the time. It's about feeling accurate. Emotion isn't just a mood. It's a message, a signature, a code. And when your emotion matches the emotional tone of your desired timeline, that timeline begins to collapse into the present moment. You're not pulling it in. You're simply removing the resistance that was keeping it out. This is what anchors a new reality. Not repetition, not effort, but embodied resonance. Let me give you an example. Alina had been journaling, visualizing, and affirming for months that she wanted to live in alignment with her soul's calling. But nothing seemed to shift. She felt stuck in her job, disconnected in her relationship, and constantly anxious. Until one day, during a meditation, she stopped trying to feel positive and simply asked, "What does it feel like to be the me who already made it through this?" And suddenly, something cracked open. A wave of calm moved through her chest. A softness entered her breath. Tears came, not from sadness, but from truth. She wasn't imagining a better life. She was remembering a frequency that already lived inside her. From that day on, everything began to shift, not because she tried harder, but because her field changed, her signal changed. She stopped seeking and started stabilizing. She didn't need to visualize constantly. She became the memory, and the universe responded. This is how timelines lock in. You anchor a new reality by normalizing the energy of it in your system, by making the extraordinary feel ordinary, by allowing magic to become your baseline, and by treating every moment of coherence like it's realer than your old story. This is why gratitude is so often misunderstood. Gratitude isn't just a spiritual virtue. It's a frequency anchor. When you feel grateful for something before it arrives, when your nervous system accepts it as already real, you create a loop in the field. That loop tells the universe, this frequency is familiar. This is my home frequency now. And the field, being exquisitely responsive, begins reorganizing matter around your signal. That's how timelines collapse. That's how the delay ends, not when the external world changes, but when your inner frequency stops waiting. Let's go even deeper. Gratitude is one portal, but so is certainty. When you remember your future with such clarity that you stop asking if, and simply rest in when, your body relaxes, your field expands, your thoughts declutter, and you open a quantum vacuum, a space where higher timelines rush in to fill the void left by doubt. Surrender is not giving up. It's remembering that the outcome has already been recorded. But here's the shadow. Many people dip into this frequency once or twice, and then return to their old baseline, their doubts, their timelines of waiting, hoping, striving. That's not remembering. That's sampling. And the field doesn't anchor to samples. It anchors to stability. Stability doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you return to your frequency faster each time you wobble. You remind yourself, I don't need to attract this. I already remember it. I don't need to beg the field. I am the field. I don't need another sign. I am the signal. So right now, as a way to root this chapter into your being, I want you to anchor it physically, not just energetically. Type in the comments, I remember the version of me who already lived this. Say it not as a wish, but as a declaration. Not because you need proof, but because you've already received the confirmation. Your body knew, your breath shifted, your field responded. This is no longer about becoming. It's about allowing the memory to stabilize. Because once you stabilize the memory, the timeline stabilizes you. In the next chapter, we'll go one level deeper and explore quantum identity, the art of becoming the version of you who already knows. You'll understand why identity is the gateway to every reality, and how remembering isn't just a feeling, but a shift in who you believe yourself to be. The memory of your future is already complete. Now, you become the one who remembers it, with every breath. You can't access a new reality while embodying the identity that created the old one. You can't remember your future while remaining loyal to the version of you that forgot. And you can't collapse timelines if you're still asking permission to become. This is the unspoken truth at the core of every transformation. Your identity is the lock. Your frequency is the key. Let's begin here. Identity is not who you are, it's who you've rehearsed. It's a set of familiar thoughts, emotions, reactions, and beliefs your nervous system has accepted as me. And because your field is intelligent and precise, it reflects back not what you say you want, but what your identity silently broadcasts. In quantum terms, identity is the vibrational signature through which you interact with the field. And if you don't shift that signal, no amount of affirmations, vision boards, or rituals will override the broadcast. You'll keep collapsing the same reality, again and again, because the field is obedient. It mirrors what you are, not what you wish. But here's the twist. Your identity isn't fixed. It's fluid, it's fractal, it's programmable, and that's where everything changes. Quantum identity means choosing, deliberately and repeatedly, to embody the version of you who already knows the future is done. Not done, as in out there, waiting to arrive, but done, as in deeply lived. Already experienced, already remembered. And when you become that version, not in fantasy but in frequency, you initiate what physicists might call observer collapse, and mystics might call embodiment. Either way, it leads to the same result. Reality changes. Let's unpack that. In the double-slit experiment, we learn that observation determines outcome. A wave of infinite possibilities collapses into a single particle, a defined reality, the moment it is observed. But what's never asked enough is, who is the observer? And more importantly, which version of you is observing? If your wounded self observes your life, it collapses into chaos, survival, and repetition. If your awakened self observes, reality collapses into expansion, peace, and synchronicity. And if your quantum identity observes, the one who already remembers the outcome, you collapse a version of reality that feels like destiny, but is actually design. This is why most people experience reality shifts as spontaneous or out of the blue. They don't realize they momentarily accessed a different identity, and that identity pulled in a new world. But what if you made that access permanent? What if you rehearsed the emotional, energetic, and behavioral patterns of your future self so consistently that your brain stopped waiting for proof, and your body stopped asking for permission? This isn't pretending. This is entrainment. You entrain your nervous system to a higher frequency. You entrain your perception to expect coherence. You entrain your behaviors to match what is already true in another dimension of the field. And here's the beautiful part. When identity shifts, effort disappears. Because the version of you who already knows doesn't need to try. They don't chase signs. They don't force outcomes. They don't panic in the in-between. They move from knowing. They move as if because they've already been there. That's the magnetic power of quantum identity. It removes friction from creation. You're no longer climbing the mountain. You are the mountain. Let's go deeper. Every identity emits a predictable field. That field informs what thoughts you have access to, what emotions feel normal, what people are drawn into your orbit, and what choices feel aligned. So when you shift your identity, you don't just change your mindset, you change your entire field of perception. Suddenly, things that felt out of reach become obvious. Decisions that once terrified you now feel natural. Ideas that once seemed impossible start flowing in as downloads, nudges, confirmations. Not because reality changed, but because the you observing it did. Think of it like changing lenses on a camera. Same world, different clarity, different focus, different story. And the shift happens the moment you decide to remember who you really are. Not the version you performed to be liked, not the identity you built to survive, but the version of you who lives beyond time, the one who doesn't wonder if it's possible, because they're already on the other side of done. This is what initiates a timeline jump, not the goal, not the strategy, not the manifestation method, but the identity shift that says, I am no longer asking for it, I am it. When you stabilize that identity, emotionally, neurologically, vibrationally, you become unrecognizable to your past. The field recalibrates. People start treating you differently. Opportunities move toward you without chase. The noise quiets. The knowing takes over. And it's not magic, it's physics. Let's make this practical. Start with this question. What does my future self no longer believe? Then, what does my future self feel daily? And can I generate that now, without waiting for conditions to change? Every time you answer those questions with embodiment, you reinforce the new identity. Every time you say no to the old reaction and yes to the new frequency, you strengthen the signal. It's not about perfection, it's about coherence. You don't have to be her, or him, or them, all the time. You just have to become impossible to ignore, to yourself. Because once you remember who you are, reality has no choice but to remember too. In the final chapter, we'll close the loop. You'll see why you were never lost, never behind, never off track. Because you're not trying to remember your future. Your future has been trying to remember you. And now that you've cleared the interference, it's finally coming home. You've spent years trying to remember who you are, trying to reclaim your purpose, trying to reassemble the version of yourself that once believed, deeply, vividly, that something extraordinary was meant for you. But what if the remembering isn't just happening in you? What if something is remembering you? What if your future self, the one who's already lived it, already walked it, already wept and won and witnessed the miracle, is the one calling you back into alignment? This isn't just a poetic idea. It's a multi-dimensional phenomenon. Because in the field, nothing is ever truly forgotten, only obscured. And when the fog clears, when the noise quiets, the version of you that always knew begins to re-emerge. You start to see signs not because the universe suddenly woke up, but because you did. You begin to feel a strange sense of familiarity in moments you've never lived, because your future self is sending echoes back in time. Subtle at first, then stronger. A repeated number, a name whispered in a dream, a chance encounter that rearranges your perception. You're not being given a new life. You're being invited back to the one that's always been yours. You see, remembering isn't about retrieving lost information. It's about dissolving the interference that blocked the resonance, the interference of doubt, of trauma, of identities you inherited but never chose, of timelines you tolerated but never belonged to. But the moment you let go, even for a second, of the idea that you're broken, behind or off track, a portal opens. And through that portal, your future self steps forward, not as a concept, but as a current, a frequency, a magnetic pull toward the version of you who already became. And that's when the shift happens, because now, you're no longer walking toward your future. You're being walked by it. It's choosing you, and not because you earned it, but because you matched it. This is the moment you stop seeking. You stop proving. You stop performing. You stop asking, "Am I doing it right?" And instead, you start breathing as if the air itself is different. You start moving as if the ground beneath you is guided. You start speaking not from hope, but from memory. This is the soul's ultimate remembering, not of what to do, but of who you've always been beneath who you had to be. And now that version is becoming stable. Now the field is responding faster. Now the timeline is anchoring. And so the question is no longer, will I get there? The real question is, can I stay here long enough for the memory to reshape my reality? Because coherence isn't a moment. It's a choice you make again and again until it becomes your identity. And from that identity, everything changes. You magnetize differently. You speak differently. You become the one who people look at and say, there's something about them. Not because of charisma, but because your energy is remembered by the field as truth. You're not manifesting anymore. You're stabilizing a memory so old, so sacred, so encoded into your being that even your breath carries its blueprint. That's the real power. That's the real return. And it's not coming. It's here. Right now. And if you're ready to take this even further, not just remember your quantum identity but live from it daily, there's a next step waiting. It's an ebook called Awaken Your Quantum Power. It's a complete activation guide designed to help you integrate everything you've experienced here into practical, daily embodiment. You'll explore techniques, rituals, and memory access tools that shift your nervous system into alignment with the version of you who doesn't just visualize, but vibrates from completion. Along with it, you'll receive a practical book to track your shifts, expand your coherence, and deepen your connection to the field, day by day. If this journey stirred something ancient in you, if you're ready to collapse timelines instead of chasing them, the link is in the pinned comment. Don't read it because you need more information. Read it because your future is remembering you. And this is your confirmation. And if you take nothing else from this entire video, let it be this. You were never lost. You were only layered. And each time you choose remembrance over reaction, alignment over effort, presence over performance, you peel back the illusion and step into the version of yourself that has always existed in the field, complete, whole, unshakable, and now, finally home.